right, yo, I'm Eriberto. I'm a BI alum, and welcome back to the second season of Bro Let's Talk. We will continue to put on more episodes as this academic year goes. So let's get to it. So let me introduce my fellow peers. Go ahead by telling me your name, your major, and your hometown.
Yeah, my name is Edrick. I'm a chemical engineering major from Lakewood, Washington, and this is my fourth year at the UW. I spent my sophomore and junior year as a peer mentor for the BI, and now I've been given the opportunity to be a peer mentor lead, so I'm looking forward to it.
What's good, y'all? My name is Moti. I'm originally from Vancouver, Washington. I'm a junior here studying finance, and within the BI, I've served as a student assistant for the last 3 years, and this is my second year being a peer mentor.
Cool. My name is Ethan. I'm from Hayward, California, shout out East Bay. Majors are LSJ and psychology. Last year I served as a peer mentor, and this year I'm serving as peer mentor lead for the second year class.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys. So in this first episode, we will cover how to kind of transition into college and kind of finding your groove as a freshman or even as a current student who's kind of been struggling with it. So let's get into it for the first question. What has been the biggest challenge for you guys to adjust to college life so far? And how have you been managing it?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge for me was shifting from I was a good high school student, but then becoming a good college student was pretty difficult. At my high school, it took less to be a good student relative to my peers. And so that made me think that, oh, what I'm doing is working. And what I did was not study, not turn in homeworks. And I would just rely on test grades to be successful. And that's not really how that works in college. It took a lot of discipline and intentional conscious work to start building good study habits. Fortunately, now as a senior, I feel pretty comfortable in all my classes and doing well, but my biggest challenge was getting used to the need to study.
For sure, for sure. For me, I would say balance, and it's a skill I'm still learning to master. As I continue on with college, I still struggle with, stress and anxiety with my priorities, but I've learned to give myself grace as well as being organized, managing my time better. I use a to-do list on my notes app, and I use Google Calendar to help me, get down to the T and figure out, okay, I have a gap here. I need to be here at like certain times so that way I can be efficient with taking care of my tasks.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just you have to have so much more initiative in college. You have to research your classes, your professors. You have to think about, what's my workload, what quarters do I want to work part-time, and how do I adjust my schedule around that? And then I think importantly, at the UW, there really is so much here we offer as far as opportunities and resources. So really taking the initiative to say, oh, I'm going to shoot my shot and apply to them when they come up. I think that's really important.
That's cool. And just wanted to follow up with you, Edric. You said that you struggled coming into the University of Washington, just like kind of finding that groove.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it was like that you were struggling compared to like high school?
I think it's mostly because so before college, everybody's in different school systems, and different school systems have different benchmarks as far as the performance of their students. And I feel like mine just wasn't as strong. Not a lot of my friends went to college. Not a lot of the people I was around in high school went to college. So that just sort of speaks to the environment, the academic environment that I was in prior to university. And so, when I get here, obviously now everybody is very studious and academics oriented. So classes are going to be a little harder. It was an adjustment needing to study. And so that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, would you guys agree, Moti, Ethan? Kind of like where you're from, because you're from Vancouver, you're from Hayward, Cali, like did that kind of resonate with you guys as well? Or is that kind of different?
No, I think so. I came from a high school that's 93% minority. It was very much generally lower socioeconomic status. So we didn't have a lot of kids going to college.
Oh, wow.
I think in my class, my freshman year, we started out with 500 students in a class, and by the end, 200 didn't make it for graduation. So, coming here to the UW is definitely, a big transition. In one sense, like academically, but in another sense, also, the demographic makeup. So, I mean, you go to your classes, no longer am I seeing everyone that just looks like me. And I think that you really have to try and find your community here and try and figure out, I do belong here, and these are people that I can enjoy being around and enjoy life here.
Yeah, I get you, bro, because I went to high school in Italian high school in SeaTac, Washington, and it was the same thing. Like, it was a class of 200, so it's not that big compared to high schools, but like, if I remember correctly, it was like 65 around there, students that wouldn't graduate when we're hitting April, and it's just like, dang, bro, if you think about it, that was just like, what, 1/4 of the students? I was just like, and it was the same thing as you, I came from like a, school with just a bunch of students of color, and like, the community around wasn't like the best, like socioeconomically. And so it was like a lot of students were struggling as well. So I totally get you, man. What about you, Moti?
Yeah, honestly, I like what they both said. For me, like I always grew up, being culturally different in the spaces I was, whether it was in high school, middle school, elementary school. And for me, like I feel like my high school, like looking back, almost kind of failed me just because I wasn't exposed to a lot of resources. Like for example, YEOC. I feel like if I was exposed to that to help me, that could have got me into the business program earlier and saved me the struggle of my first couple of years. So little stuff like that, just not having access to certain resources, or I feel like the way some of my counselors were, some of the faculty there was more tailored towards getting people just to simply graduate or getting them to walk across versus somebody like me who was looking to achieve or looking to excel in whatever it is that I was trying to do back then. So yeah, no, I like what they both said about community and the benchmarks.
Sure. Yeah, it's like kind of like that quote. It's like the counselors were kind of teaching the students. They were just feeding the students for the day, but they weren't teaching how the students how to fish
Exactly.
for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
So that makes sense. Could you also elaborate with like what's the YOC, just for like the listeners?
Right. So YEOC, it's a pipeline program within the Foster School of Business here at UW, and essentially they have mentors who go out to different high schools and provide mentorship, or even some of the students come here for different seminars. And it's supposed to not only educate you about majoring in business here at UW, but also looking into business as a whole and like career options. So for me, it would have been very fascinating and very intriguing if I had access to that resource, but unfortunately I didn't. So,
and why do you think that that would have made like such a great difference to you?
Like I said, I wasn't admitted into my major coming into UW, and I'm also grateful for that to say. But also I feel like I would have been a lot more educated on just the business field as a whole, how to navigate, how to network, and honestly, how to set myself for success. I feel like just not having the resource, like kind of put me at a disadvantage coming into college, because I'm out here trying to slowly figure out some of these topics. Meanwhile, there's kids that already knew this like their junior and senior year. So and there's a lot of reasons as to why I probably wasn't exposed to that resource, distance being one of them. But it would have been an asset for me for sure.
Yeah, and I also want to touch upon like for sure you're gonna see failure when you get to to any kind of college, university. I think you guys can agree. And like you said, it's like not always a bad thing. You learn from them. It's like it's kind of like a perspective on it. Like you either choose to learn from it or choose not to, because sometimes like those kind of obstacles and challenges make you stronger, make you a better person. Which I actually want to talk about. Like, did you guys face like your first quarter here any challenges or obstacles that kind of just messed up your groove that you were trying to go for? Because like you kind of have like a picture like, oh, like my first quarter is gonna go like this, and it doesn't at all. So like, how do you adjust?
Yeah, so I went from, in high school, my football coach told me I was going to be a neurosurgeon, and my first organic chemistry exam score started with a 5. So obviously that's not quite what neurosurgeons are doing. And so I went from being a big fish in a small pond to I was just getting eaten by chemistry nerd sharks.
Yeah.
So it was an adjustment, but also it taught me that failure is okay. I ended up I'm in a good position right now, and I've had plenty of scores that start with 5 and even numbers less than 5. So just knowing that everything's gonna just turn out how it's gonna turn out. You can't accept failure too much. I wouldn't just continuously let it happen and laugh it off, because eventually you can fail out of the school, but just don't take it too tough. And definitely don't take it personally, because even the best fail. So I think that's been how I've been managing it.
Yeah, go for it.
And yeah, so for me, I would say my first experience with failure was winter quarter of my freshman year. To be transparent, it was winter break of freshman year. I lost a dear family member to a heart attack. And so witnessing that and coming back to school was a big challenge. And, just coming back and, having to deal with grief and the mental and emotional trauma of that experience was a lot, but also I knew that I had a mission, and it was to obviously get into my major. So I was taking microeconomics that quarter, 8:30 in the morning, but I couldn't get to class. I was having trouble going to class, staying caught up. And so essentially I had to SNS it, and I ended up getting an NS. But I also learned that quarter to rely on resources around me, like academic success coaching, counseling, and just doing little stuff to help with managing the stress and anxiety and grief that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And that really helped me build myself back up that quarter. And so going into the spring, I actually ended up retaking the class and getting a 4.0. And that's something that that's a very big proud moment for me, just because failure is honestly a part of success. You'll hear people say that. And, even though I failed that quarter in my eyes, I still found, I like to say when you fail in certain situations, you have to find the little W's in those situations. And even though I might not have passed that class, I still gained insight, which obviously helped me do better the next quarter.
Yeah.
But then also I was a stronger person. I was more strong-minded. I learned to lean on those around me, and to, put my pride down essentially at the time, and, ask for help when I needed it. And that was very important to me.
Oh, that's a great point you brought up, bro. Because I feel like pride and ego is something that hinder a lot of people from reaching out for help. And like, especially here in the Brotherhood Initiative, you have so many people to go to for help, but it's just it comes down to letting go of your pride and ego. Like, there's so many people in this world. You think you're gonna do this by yourself? You're not. I'm sorry to tell you. And that's where failing. It's like I said before, but that's where you learn. Like, if you only had success in your life, you would have learned jack. So that's great, man. What about you, Ethan?
I think coming in the first quarter, where I struggled wasn't so much academically. When I came in, I knew that it was going to be a big transition. So I took a lighter course load in my first quarter. I took 13 credits. But I think what I regret is I had opportunities presented to me, like there's this one research project that was being offered to me by a professor in the sociology department, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I knew I was interested in law, and I thought to myself, I'm not super interested in research. I want to go work at a law firm or something. And I think what I realized is I should have just jumped at that, because any experience can really be meaningfully leveraged. And any experience or experiences are interdisciplinary. You can take skills from one thing, and it might be like an administrative job, or it might be working part-time in a cafe. Those skills still can be useful to whatever you want to do in your career. And you shouldn't let yourself be like, oh, I need to find the perfect thing before getting experience, because you have to start somewhere. And I think you build the little steps until you get to some place that you actually want. I think it's about kind of being realistic with yourself and saying, okay, this is something that actually does interest me. May not be the perfect thing that I can see myself, being in 3 years, but I should take it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, transitioning into another question. Like I said before, you're not going to be able to do this by yourself. So you kind of, have to find some people that are on your side. So like, how did you guys approach making new friends during your like first few weeks, man, or quarters on campus?
Yeah, so what I did was I started showing up to BI stuff. That's pretty simple, and I'm sure it sounds like I'm plugging the program right now, but I mean, at the end of the day, like they're cool guys, and you know, just the other night I went out with 3 or 4 of them that I met 3 years ago, and even though they're not involved in the peer mentor program, like the initial bonds and sort of starting to go through a new experience with somebody else, it's got us pretty close, and so I'm grateful for those connections. Then as far as outside the BI, I can remember one distinct class. I was in some math class my spring quarter, and I told myself like, I mean, I'm just gonna sit next to a random person. And so I sat next to this guy, Kyle. I still talk to him 3 years later. He's a cool guy, and I met other friends through him. And so even though that the idea of reaching out to someone new and trying to befriend them was intimidating to me at first, admittedly, it's really paid off in the long run.
So it's kind of just taking that courage.
Yeah, stepping out of your comfort zone, especially like, I mean, I before was not super social and open, and now I think I'm definitely getting there. I love talking and being myself around these guys in this building, and I feel nice and accepted. And so I'm glad I'm able to open up, and I think it will help new students make friends.
That's great, man. Well, we have Paul, like student success advisor in here, and he was nodding his head viciously at the fact that Edrick said he opened himself more up. I don't know Edrick beforehand, but
Too much up.
yeah. So that's great to hear, man.
You to rein it in.
Yeah. All right, go for it, Moti.
Yeah, now for me, there's a funny story. So one main reason why I came to UW was not only just to be around people who look like me, but to get more connected with my culture and get more connected with the East African community, because I know it's very profound out here. And I remember my first few days on campus, like going to dog days and all those events. Yeah. I didn't see nobody. So like I thought it was a scam for a second. And then I was just rolling with my roommates, people that I already knew. But it wasn't until the BI orientation, which was like on my 3rd, 4th day on campus, where from that day on, I was just around community, around people who looked like me from that day forward. So being around, other men of color who share experiences and, look like me and, think like me, like it was a blessing. And it helped me to meet more people and to network even more and build more connections. And so I really want to emphasize that not only just the BI, but the BI orientation, to be specific, like that is such a meaningful experience, because for a lot of people, it could be their very first experience like on campus where they're actually like welcomed, or they feel at home, or they feel that sense of community that they were longing for when they even came to the university in the first place.
Sure. So yeah, I agree with both of you, man. Like even then, like I'm rooming with 3 or 4 guys that I was in my same core for the Brotherhood Initiative. So it's just like, even though I graduated, these guys are still going to school and we still bond, and thanks to this, like you said, not to shout them out or anything, free plug or whatnot, but no, they really do, it gets you with like people like-minded, like culture, people that have a similar experience to you. So that's good for you guys as well, man. All right, go for it, Ethan.
Yeah, we've been plugging the program a little bit, so I'm gonna talk a little bit outside that. I think I've got an interesting perspective because I'm out of state. I think when you're trying to think about, how you want to make new friends during your first few weeks or the first quarter, I think the first thing is don't overthink it. When you're first year in the dorms, you got a bunch of other first years who don't know anybody, especially if you're out of state. Like me, I didn't know a soul coming here, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, step outside your room, on your floor. There's always going to be community events every week organized by HFS. And know that, it's as simple as saying, what's up, how you doing? And it's just repeat exposure. You're going to see these people over and over again, not to get into like the psychology of it, but as you see each other more, you get more comfortable around each other and you talk to each other more. And, you get connected. So, don't stress too much about it. I think just like Edrick said, just start practicing, putting yourself out there, get talking to people, and it only gets easier.
Yeah, and even just to add on to Ethan, like the mindset he has, like, how many other people do you think have the same mindset? You know, like, oh, like it's intimidating at first. Like they want to talk to someone so bad, but like everyone's thinking the same thing. So it's just one person taking the initiative, you know. So just going on to the next question, like what tips do you have for like balancing academics and social life, you know, especially when you start making friends, especially kind of with like the new freedom that you have at university. But also like how do you take count of like lack of accountability?
Yeah, so I would probably just say be intentional with what you do, and that goes for both your academic and social life. If when you're, for example, if you're studying and you're thinking, or if you're doing homework and you're like, oh, okay, I know this is going to be on the test, but I just want to go out with my friends, so I'm going to use AI. Like I do think that even though it's easy, especially in the freshman courses, to just sort of find the short workaround to getting your assignments turned in. I think that part of the studying process is doing your homework intentionally. And I know I probably sound like your mother's, but like it really will save you time, because before tests, if you realize you don't know anything, you're going to be spending nights, full nights, you know, pulling all-nighters trying to get the material down, and the chances are you're not going to do well. Then you're going to have to retake the class next quarter. Wow, you just wasted 10 weeks of time.
Yeah.
And you know, being intentional also applies to your social gatherings. Like if you're you know, inviting a friend over, and I'm not saying this doesn't work for everybody, but you know, you invite your friend over and you guys just sit on your phone watching reels, like that's probably not going to feel, you know, fulfilling. And so I think being intentional about how you connect with your friends will help you feel like you've made like you have a more fulfilling social life. And so that's pretty much what I mean by being intentional.
I think the biggest thing I want to emphasize is like having a strong sense of your priorities, and honestly just doing a lot of soul searching. I know for me, I'm like constantly self-reflecting. I try to be conscious of myself and those around me. So sometimes I just like to sit down and just think, okay, like what am I about? What am I trying to do? What's important to me right now at this very moment? Because life is so dynamic and evolving. Like, you know, you have to really do that type of soul searching periodically. But for me, like I mentioned earlier, Google Calendar, to-do list, that's what keep me organized, and like, you know, by the hour especially. And when I have those gaps, then I can really, you know, maneuver and figure out, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do here. And when you're really organized and on top of your tasks, not only does the stress and anxiety go away from those tasks in general, but you can honestly mix in time for all the extra stuff, whether it's, you know, social gatherings or going out with friends. And if you're really organized, you should be mixing them in anyways and making it a priority. So it's just a matter of being organized and just being self-aware, and honestly just discipline and consistency. So
That's what's up.
I mean, you guys said it so good. I think also part, you know, putting what you guys said together, being intentional also means, you know, coming to college and understanding like who you are. What are your habits? You know, are you someone who studies well by themselves? Are you someone who studies well in groups, or do you just get distracted in groups like me? Because I've sat there for sometimes 2 hours just like chatting it up with my homies. So I realized that, you know, for me, I prefer to just sit down at the library, sit there for 3 hours and just work through it. And then, you know, I think calendar is great. I think just being, you know, being comfortable with yourself, giving yourself grace, it's all part of just growing and becoming, you know, a college student. And you'll find that balance as you know, learn a little bit more about yourself, and you'll learn how to be more intentional.
I love that. I love how you gave your own definition of you know, prioritizing and habits and that. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we all have our own definition and kind of paradigm of how we view the world. So that specific, you know, definition for sure can help someone out. Now for like the last question. Looking back at your first quarter, for you, Edrick, I know that was ages ago. It was like being the oldest one. Bro be acting like unk sometimes. I'm just playing.
Onion,
But
spring chicken.
spring. Okay, spring chicken, bro. All right, yeah. Looking back at your first quarter, what do you wish you knew before starting college?
Uh, that's a tough one. I would say I wish I knew that there's more career options that can give you a financially stable life.
Mm,
I before I got to college, I had just sort of Googled what job pays the most money, just straight, just the salary. And I just looked at the little Google text box, it said $600,000 orthopedic surgeon. Cool. I'm going to be a surgeon. That's that. And that doesn't really, that didn't really work out. And that, I don't like blood. I don't like bodily fluids. I don't like customer service. And like, that's like three of the main things that doctors do and surgeons do. So like, I think that I wish I did more research on different careers and how to get started with that experience in college. Because it kind of did bite me in the rear end, not knowing that stuff.
yeah, for sure, I agree.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of touched base on this earlier, but honestly, just like being exposed to more resources for professional development. Like I said, with the high school that I went to, I feel like they were more focused on getting people across the stage. I wish I had more access to like career opportunities or professional development opportunities, whether it's like YEOC, like I mentioned, or I didn't know how resumes worked. I didn't even know what a LinkedIn was, like, or Indeed, none of that stuff. And or even just doing like technical skills, like, because I know for me, for finance, like Excel, SQL, all these coding languages, like, is so important. And not knowing that or not being exposed, I almost felt like set me back. And that, imposter syndrome is already very big at UW and even for my major. So it's like, it almost like just adds more anxiety. So I definitely wish I was more exposed, but also, when life gives you lemons, you got to make the most out of it and squeeze them and make lemonade. So we getting through it, and I'm just grateful with everything I got. So I can't complain.
I mean, it starts with gratitude, man.
Right.
Because if you're always looking for what you don't have, you'll always be bitter.
Right,
So
right.
that's what's up, man.
Yeah, I think for me, it's when you come to college, be comfortable with change. Understand that, when you come in, it's just the beginning. And part of college is, like I said, trying to think about who you are, what do you want to do, how do all your experiences connect, and what's really meaningful to you, like what do you want to pursue, college and beyond. So I think for me, like I came in actually econ and psychology, but then I realized econ wasn't so interesting to me. So I ended up pursuing LSJ, and it was classes that I really enjoyed. The professors were great. It was something that I was interested in. And so, if you find something that's interesting to you, maybe like a major, maybe it's like ethnic studies, and, it's not something you initially had in mind, be open to it, take the class, see if you enjoy it. And, maybe it ends up being something that you do on the side, for the rest of your life, and something that really brings you a lot of joy in your life. And that's important and not something to be undervalued.
For sure. Thank you guys, honestly. Like your guys' responses were great. I mean, for sure I could see someone taking this and like actually applying it to their own life in a positive way. Thank you, Edrick, Moti, Ethan, and I also want to thank the guys listening and girls. Thank you for on this following us on this episode, and we encourage you to follow us and keep looking out for more episodes. Like I said in the beginning, we're for sure trying to pull out more episodes, and as this academic year comes up. So thank you all, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.